There are new people coming into the business that are getting opportunities. I was talking to a manager with another firm, and he was talking about a guy that he just brought in who is new to the business, but he came well trained, and they're giving him a shot and giving him claims because they know that he's well trained, and the training that the guy went through is very reputable, and they produce good adjusters.
When the work slows down, a lot of adjusters panic, but listen to me. Quiet seasons don't kill careers. They reveal who's serious about this business. I've been through this cycle more times than I can count. As a field adjuster, as a manager, and now as a trainer who's helped thousands of new adjusters get their first deployments. Every single time the market goes quiet, there's a small group of people who use that time to prepare. And when the next big storm season hits, they're the ones the firms call first. In this conversation with James Mathis, we're going to break down how to turn slow months into your biggest advantage, what firms actually look for when they're filling deployment lists, how to use downtime to build habits that make your workflow bulletproof, and why winter storms, dailies, and off-season claims might be the best hidden opportunities in this whole entire industry. Because when everyone else is waiting for the phone to ring, you can be getting ready for it. And really quick before we get started, I want to thank two of Adjuster TV's biggest sponsors, Complacency. Protect yourself as an IA with E&O and general liability coverages right now at cplic.net/adjustertv and Hague Education, the #1 resource for damage identification books, trainings, and certifications. Not only that, but they provide building inspection and desk adjuster trainings and certifications as well. Check them out at hagueeducation.com and use code AdjusterTV for a discount. All right, let's get into it. Starting now.
There's a mass exodus of a lot of old guys like me that are just close to retirement age and they're aging out. You have people that have honestly just struggled in the last few years finding work anyway. If chances are, if you've been struggling to find work the last few years and you're sitting here today with no work, well, guess what? I mean, it's just indicative of what you were going through before, and you're probably one of those people that are going to wash out. But at the same time, I've talked to people every day, management, executives in this business every day, and there are new people coming into the business that are getting opportunities. Matter of fact, I was just before you and I spoke, I was talking to a manager with another firm, and he was talking about a guy that he just brought in that he's in the Texas Panhandle who is new to the business, but he came well trained, and they're giving him a shot and giving him claims, right? Because they know that he's well trained, and the training that the guy went through is very reputable, and they produce good adjusters. And so here's a guy fresh out, got an opportunity because why? The reputation of the training that he had. That was the reason why the guy was getting the opportunity. Old guys like me, we get complacent. I'll be honest with you. It's happened to me. I've gotten complacent before where, you get an account that you've worked for a long time, all of a sudden wants you to start doing things differently. And you complain about it, and you bellyache and moan about it, and you're just like going, this is BS. Why are they doing this? They're just making it more difficult for us. But then you sit back and look, everything changes. I'm really not doing any more work. I'm just doing different work, and is it slowing me down? It slows me down for a short period of time because why? It's new, and I have to get used to the new process. That's where it slows me down at. Is there a lot of downward pressure on fee schedules in the last few years? Absolutely, there has been. And why has that been? It has been because, honestly, the product that was being put out by the adjusters, the independent adjusters, and the IA firms was crap. They were having to reopen claims all the time. They weren't being completed, and so. Look, if you're going to diminish what you do, then they're going to lower the fee schedules because they're having to fix your claims all the time. The other issue that you have is that I'm trying to put this nicely. It's hard for me sometimes, but a lot of people got in this business because they heard you can make a lot of money. You'll make 6 figures a year every year. You're going to do all these things. You're going to make all this money. And so a bunch of people jumped into it for that reason and that reason only. And so they went out there. They were able to get work easy to get work, and they just didn't care because they were making all kinds of money. They didn't think it was going to go away. And hey, look, if they weren't calling me, they wouldn't. If they didn't need me, they wouldn't be calling me. And because of that, I could continue to do what I want to do. Hey, I was a manager, okay? And I ran into that all the time from guys, especially guys in places where it was hard to find adjusters. I'm going to just call out California, man. The adjusters out there, they were the hardest ones to work with. It's like they all are on the same secret social media group where, hey, we all act this way and they can't fire us all, kind of thing. I don't know what the attitude was.
Right.
You would see it in areas that were remote that didn't have very many adjusters. There wasn't a lot to choose from. These guys they gave the worst product. But guess where you got your best product at? You got your best product in areas that had a lot of adjusters, because why? They had competition. They were competing. They knew that if they did not give a quality product, I always talk about Dallas Fort Worth. You can't swing a dead cat in any direction without hitting an adjuster in Dallas Fort Worth, right? So I think it's in every HOA bylaws that you have to have an adjuster, at least 2 adjusters, live on every single block, because the neighborhood that I moved out of, we had 4 live on my street. Okay,
Yep.
Some were staff and some were independents, but they're everywhere. Well, that goes back to the whole thing of you were getting a bad product. These guys that were that were putting out the better claims, it's not all about your claims. And we've talked about this. It's not all about the estimate you put out. It is important, but it's about communication. It's organization. It's, bringing your work in every day, processing that work every day, making your contacts, getting your stuff scheduled, updating, your CMS, exact analysis or whatever, doing the claims, go out and doing your inspection and getting your stuff turned in and keeping everything up like it's supposed to be, the communications and everything. So that's what's important. And the guys that are complacent, they were the ones that you were constantly saying, hey man, why haven't you contacted? Why haven't you updated this? Oh yeah, I contacted them 2 days ago. Well, you didn't update it, and those are the ones you're dealing with. But, those are the ones that are right now that are not getting a lot of work too. Those are the ones that are the headaches and the ones that aren't getting work. The new guys that are coming into the business right now, they're seeing opportunities because the IA firms and management says, okay, I'm willing to give this guy a shot because A, he's coming to us well-trained, number one. Number 2 is, the truth is, the newer you are into something like this, the more eager you are to learn and produce. I'll take a chance on that guy, even though I have a guy sitting over here that's got 8 years of experience, because he's a pain to deal with. It's because he hasn't adapted. He won't, every time we tell him he needs to do something a certain way, he complains about it and says, no, I'm doing it this way because that doesn't fit my workflow. Okay. I have a very dear friend of mine right now that is, it's funny how things work, but he was doing work with a certain company and they have a certain thing says, hey, if we ask for a supplement or we ask for an estimate to be written on something, we need a 24-hour turnaround. And that's the rules of that account. Okay. So if you know the rules up front and you can't abide by those rules, then don't take the work. Right. It goes back to another thing we've talked about. You're a business. The IA firm, the insurance company, or your client, they have a certain expectation for you to perform in a certain way for them. If you don't do it, then they're going to go find somebody else to service them. It's like if you take your car to a mechanic and your mechanic sits in your car for 3 weeks and doesn't communicate with you about it, and you find out he hadn't done anything with it. Are you going to go back to that mechanic the next time you need your car fixed? No, you're not going to do it. Yeah. This is the same thing that we do here every day. So this is what happens is that they're going, okay, I'm willing to take a chance on somebody new that's eager to learn than I am to go back and get the same crappy service and attitude that I've had for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's like taking your car to the mechanic and saying, hey, this something's wrong with the radiator, and he changes all your tires and doesn't look at your radiator. It's product, right? If you're an adjuster, the file and how you do everything is your product, right? And if they're not getting what they're asking for out of you, then Why would they give you money and keep employing you? They find somebody else to do the work the way they need it done. It's one of the reasons why in my training, one of the big components of it is can you follow directions, right? And it's set up to where in our test that we can instantly tell if you're not following the directions, if you just like kind of go freestyling or trying to make up your own way to do it. It's immediately evident, and it's points off, right? It's this isn't rocket science, right? The rocket science part of this work is in how you organize yourself and organize your time and conduct yourself, how you dress, how you interact with the customer. The file itself, I mean, it's restoration constructions, paint, drywall, and shingles. I mean, it's not complicated.
That's just where we're at in the business right now. So, like I said, everything's cyclical. It's not going to stay slow forever. Okay, we are extremely. For the most part, if you're a catastrophe adjuster, yes, you're dependent upon the weather, right? That's what a catastrophe is, Most of them are weather related. Of course, you have man-made catastrophes like, chemical plants exploding, those sort of things.
Sure.
Most people get their opportunities on catastrophes, but people are getting opportunities on dailies too because they're well prepared. Okay. Like I said in my post, whenever we do have a big event finally happen, and we will, I mean, we could have a big freeze event this year. It's not just about hurricanes. It's just not about hailstorms. I forgot what year it was. It was, 2020 or something like that we had, Snowmageddon in Texas.
Yep.
And everybody was stuck home and all the freezing and everything that happened there. We could have that at any time. And guess what? Guys like me who are out here running dailies every day, I'm not going to get up and go do that. Why would I do that? I've got steady work at home. I'm sleeping in my bed every day. I get to see my wife and my dogs, so I'm not going to leave that.
65% of you folks watching are not subscribed to my channel, which is really weird because it doesn't cost you anything and it really, really helps the channel grow. If you like the video so far, or you like the content we have on Adjuster TV, to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and maybe even like and share, do all this, the buttons and things like that. But anyway, back to my conversation with James.
So there's going to be a need soon. And then guess what? When you go out there and you produce and you do a good job on something like that, trust me, your IA firms will find a way to get you work. Okay. They'll find a way to keep you busy, or at least to keep you engaged until the next one. If you're good and you're well prepared, you know what you're doing. I mean, that's what we used to do when I was a manager. If somebody performed, we would find a way to keep them working one way or another. And
absolutely, yeah.
That's what we're waiting on. We're waiting for an event. Is it going to happen? Yep, eventually. We just don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to happen. And so stay prepared, stay trained, stay relevant. Network. Go to NACA.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to NACA. This year with the what is it, the ENSO and the La Nina and the El Nino and all that stuff, it's pretty much tracking just about the same as 2013. And in 2013, there were 0 landfalling named storms. So the whole hurricane season was a bust. But, and this has been part of the forecast for this year, and it's relevant to me because I live in Montana, but the 2013 to 14 winter was one of the most significant for the United States. Collapse in the polar vortex. There was the November, early October blizzard, post-tropical cyclone Karen, Thanksgiving week storm complex, December, winter storm, Christmas, early January. It was the winter was a lot more significant. And winter storms, they generate, you think about it, right? You got, whether it's inches of snow, a lot of times what happens is you'll get a big storm that comes through with a cold front and you get a bunch of snow, and then a warm front's right behind that and it'll rain on it, right? So you got 2.5 feet of snow on people's roofs and then rain, and it gets, right. the snow is going to hold that water, get collapsed roofs, collapsed patio covers, collapsed sheds. The second the power goes out in any kind of sub-freezing, especially sub-zero temperatures, burst pipes, right? You got ice storms. I've worked all kinds of different winter storms. And to your point about a lot of new adjusters, traditionally, and this has been since I got started back in the late 90s, It was, well, you got to get a hurricane, you got to get a hurricane, you got to get it, and then it'll be your big chance, and that's your shot, right? My first storm was a hailstorm. The 20 years that I was in the field, I worked 6 hurricanes total, right? And in years, it didn't matter if there's a hurricane or not, I made great money every single year as a CAD adjuster. And a lot of the times, most of the time, it was on a storm that didn't get on the national news at all. It barely made a dent in the local news, if they even had local news in like Abilene, Kansas, or Kearney, Nebraska, right? Middle, kind of, you call it middle of nowhere, but there's little teeny tiny towns that have 10,000 people in them, and big storm blows right over that whole town and drops 2 3/4 inch hail. And that's where I camped out for the summer. And I couldn't care less if there was a hurricane or anything else. And then Thanksgiving rolled around and storm was over, and, go do the big loop, visiting the family, and then reset for spring and just repeat that over and over and over again. And occasionally there'd be a hurricane. I did, I think 3 of those hurricanes were in like 2004, 2005, right? And then Sandy. But the daily stuff, I'm noticing I've got some of our grads are doing more daily stuff. And one of the big factors that's making a difference for some of those folks, not only is having training that provides what we're calling demonstrated proficiency, right? It's not just that they sat in a room, right? Their body was in the room, and at the end of the 5-day training, they got a piece of paper that said they had been in the room, right? A certificate of completion. They get tested through us, and the exam is designed to test whether they can do the work or not, right? Whether they can follow instructions, whether they can use estimating guidelines, whether they can use Xactimate, all that stuff, whether they can do, they can fill out all the other forms and the diary and all that. But one of the things that's also making it's moving the needle a lot for people is having a lot of licenses, right? Having licenses in places where they're gonna have winter storm stuff, right? So this time of year, this is when I tell people, hurricane season's winding down, not looking good for a storm. I chatted with Max this morning, and he said that there might be something in the Caribbean in the next week or so, but after that, right. It's for all intents and purposes, I think the season's, who knows, anything can happen, right? But this is the part, this is where I would start transitioning into, hey, let's make sure we've got New York, we've got New Hampshire, we've got the Northeast, all those licenses up in the Northeast, so we can get our hands on it. And the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, and the West Coast, right? California, middle of winter, those guys get heavy rains, right, and mudslides. I've worked in California several times doing mudslides, or like heavy rainstorm claims. Get those licenses.
Well, 2020 was the year that I went to Seattle in November.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's there's a cat season, right? There's the summer, like wind and hail, right, that starts in, we'll say, April and goes through now, and then there's other stuff, right? There's all kinds of other stuff going on, and getting those other licenses is really key, because you just have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, there's no way to know.
Yeah, you're talking about off-season storms. We talked about the Snowmageddon in Texas, and where we had all those consecutive, the year that the power grid in Texas took a beating. Yeah. You have a once in every 100-year type event, and everything fails, and they try to blame it on everything political rather than just it was what it was. Of course. There's no way that would. Yep. You don't build your system for something that's going to happen every 100 years. It's just, nobody does that. But anyway, you had that happen. And then it was the January of 23 was the year that California, they just had, they call them atmospheric rivers, just one after another. It was just slamming California, those wind and rain and everything, floods, and they couldn't get enough adjusters in California that January. All that was going. I remember I was in Portland, and up there helping out and trying to get to NACA, and all that was going on in California, and it was like, geez, do I need to go to California? Am I going to get to go to Vegas? What's going to happen here? But there was people who left directly from NACA and went directly to California with claims that year, in January, because they needed them. So they were recruiting. People were walking in the door. They were talking to them, interviewing them, saying, how fast can you get to? I remember a friend of mine, a guy that I managed, had flown to Vegas, walked in. He was there one day, flew back to Houston, got his truck, and drove to California. I remember that. So this stuff can happen at any time. Yes, they're going to use staff first, where it's feasible to do so. But
if they even have
only have so many
team.
staff people, and then guess what? If they dump all their staff in one area and something happens somewhere else, then you gotta have people, and there's going to be opportunities.
Well, that's what happened in 2017 with Harvey hit, and everybody and their mom converged on Houston, and then Irma hit Florida, and there wasn't any. I mean, they were begging people. You remember the fee schedules for Irma were shocking to me. One thing I was thinking about, I think that you can't really exactly get into flood like NFIP, like as a brand new adjuster. There may be some shortcuts in there if you go through an IA firm and do like their mentor programs or whatever, like Crawford.
Program,
yeah, but I remember that the flood. Remember the flood of '93 that hit the Midwest, like Missouri and Mississippi. Yep. That was huge, and I was just looking at just because as you were talking, I was like, oh, when was that? What were the details on that? April to October. It was caused by the 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo. Yeah. I was like, I had no idea that was the case. It has been suggested that excess cloud condensation from the eruption were responsible for the excessive rains. It's that kind of thing. There's no predicting any of this stuff, right?
Right.
And it's like you said, it's cyclical. It's why we're here, right? Because this catastrophes can happen at any time, right? And it's not going to stay quiet forever. It never does. And you'll have big years and you'll have little years. And what I always tell people is, if you're brand new and if you've never done this before and you're trying to break into the industry, this right now, it doesn't matter what time of year it is the hardest part. It's hard as it's ever going to be. Right? Once you get experience, then you start getting options. The more licenses you get and the more you start building relationships with some firms, then you're going to be working when everybody else is complaining on social media, right? Or they're not working. And it's stuff that doesn't even show up on the news, right? A little storm that blows through one town in the middle of cornfield America and does plenty of damage. They got houses and, there's commercial properties, there's Walmarts and malls and all that kind of stuff in Kearney, Nebraska. And those all get damaged. Do you want to know what really makes the best adjusters stand out once the work starts rolling in? Then click right here and check out this next video. And don't forget to look up James Mathis on YouTube at James H. Mathis for more real-world insight from the field. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great storm.